Hey everybody, I was watching a podcast, actually a couple podcasts, to help me expand my knowledge of Loosh and what people think Loosh can mean, what Loosh harvesting is. There's a psychiatrist, he works in the mental health field. His name is Jerry Marzinski, I believe I have that right. And he started working with schizophrenic patients back in the 70s, and he started asking questions. He started asking the patients, what were the voices saying? And, you know, he looked at it, took a different stance than what the classically trained psychologists and psychiatrists look at it as just random hallucinations. And his point is, if they're sorry, I had a camera malfunction there for a second. Jerry's conclusion was, if they were random hallucinations, then why weren't, in his words, why isn't it word salad, where it just comes out, it's just random words or that make no sense at all. But most of the time, they were very negative and talked about self-harm, trying to get the people to do things. He gave one example where a patient, the voices told him, if you gouge your eye out, we'll leave you alone and we'll leave. And so the patient ended up doing that, and then they mocked him because he fell for their trick. So anyway, and let's try this again. It's really odd as I'm starting to talk about this. My gimbal keeps malfunctioning when I get to these important parts. Where the voices, you know, convinced this guy to gouge his eye out. And then they mocked him for doing that because they didn't leave. They didn't plan on leaving him. And Jerry's conclusion was that these entities, demons, whatever you want to call them, were harvesting their loosh. And I still find it hard to, I think it's more of a sadistic pleasure than it is their food. You know, if we're created in God's image and they trick us into doing harmful things or having negative thoughts, I think they enjoy that more than they're feeding off of it, if anything. I still have a hard time with Loosh being a food source or an energy source for these people. I know there's kind of examples for that in the old Disney Pixar movie, Monsters, Inc., where they would get power off of scaring children. Is that something that in Monsters, Inc. I'll finish the rest of this video without my gimbal. Very odd that it keeps malfunctioning. So I don't know. I still don't believe that Loosh is an energy or something that they feed off of. It's something they enjoy, I think. Kind of like when you see a former acquaintance or somebody you dislike or an enemy have bad luck, and we've all experienced those times where we're like, haha, good for them. You know, I think maybe that's the demons or whatever that are haunting these schizophrenic individuals. And I had a brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law was schizophrenic, and I met him several times. His name was Joe, and he was always talking to God, and he had conversations. It wasn't just like random conversations. I had a business one time, I owned a restaurant, and this lady used to come in. She was schizophrenic, and she would sit there and have full conversations with whatever that wasn't there. A lot of paranoid stuff, like the agents were out to get her, FBI agents or whatever, CIA, and paranoid schizophrenic, obviously. So it wasn't random word salad like you know, Mr. Marzinski talks about. And this I keep coming back to the conclusion that we were sent here to be humbled, humiliated, and put through trials before we move on to the afterlife with heaven. And you know, Adam and Eve, when you think about it, they Was the serpent wrong when he said, you'll not surely die if you eat of this apple, or whatever the temptation was? You'll not surely die. Was he wrong? They didn't die. They didn't die a physical death right then. He told them, you'll be like God and know right from wrong. If you've never done wrong, if you've never sinned or done anything against the will of God, which is what sin is, then you don't know the difference between right and wrong. So, I mean, he told them a truth, and God the Father knew that all this was going to happen. Obviously, it was the only way, at least in this realm, and I keep hearing people say, why did God create it this way so that one entity will have to feed off of another one to survive? When we eat animals, animals eat other animals. Well, what about the herbivores? Well, the cattle still eat living things. One living thing has to consume another living thing to survive. And I think that's a great representation of the sacrifice of Christ. He died so that we could live, just like that cow died so that we could have nourishment and live. It all comes back to representation of Jesus and his sacrifice. So this is some of my thoughts that I've had. Sorry I haven't posted in a while with the holidays. We had some more of this realm. Trials and tribulations happen. My mother-in-law's house caught on fire a couple days before Christmas. And then as we found her a new place to stay, she was walking her dog. She's almost 80. She was walking her dog, and the dog took off running after another dog in the neighborhood, and it pulled her over and she broke her hip. So we've had a lot of things happen. This is part of the trials and tribulations. Fortunately, unfortunately, no, it's fortunately. Although it doesn't feel fortunate sometimes that we go through these things. But we always come out better on the other side. I've had jobs where, and this is a great example, I've had jobs that I've left or I was fired from. I've been fired twice in my life. And both times it was a blessing. You don't think about it at the time. You think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do for money? And that sort of thing. Both times I moved on to better things. It pushed you out of your comfort zone. We've all heard the motivational speeches, get out of your comfort zone. Well, that's exactly what it did for me. So, these things that happen to us, it's pushed us out of our comfort zones. Got us to do things that we may not have otherwise done. Still can't buy Loosh as an energy or food source. Do I think that there are demonic entities here to torment us? Yeah, probably so. I don't think it's food or energy. Talk to you next time.